record on this community. Never bothers me to record anything. I mean, all I do is send you a private link, from a YouTube thing. So it's not like I'm not really sharing it out. Sometimes when people say they had a real good demo or whatever, they're like, Chris, if you want to use this for other people, because we're very, Tommy, I'm very forthcoming in what we do. We do a really nice job. We've got a really, you're going to see how everything, it's a real product. It's controlled by the customer. It's parameter driven. So that way you can feel like you're personalizing it, but yet that's how we keep our costs down. So everything very, very affordable. You'll probably be really surprised by that, because I know some of the people in this space, the price point is pretty steep, pretty significant. That's not at all what we do. We've been known to help small to mid-sized municipalities for 20 years. That's what that's who we take care of. And the only way you can do that is by making I just want you to know it's a standardized product, but yet you can personalize it. So that way, then you like all the updates and everything you just do it. You're never on some kind of custom island where it costs more. The reason I'm stressing this so much is what you're saying. You're coming from more of a, very labor intensive kind of, spreadsheets and stuff type system. So you got to make the staff feel comfortable about that transition into some. Doing that at Lancaster County right now in Pennsylvania, Amish country. And same idea. They were spreadsheets and stuff. And they're like, hey, we really want to make this just smoother. And I was like, well, that's kind of what we do. We're not like some of these where there are some lodging tax, solely lodging taxes, but they're charging a whole lot more for a whole lot of stuff. And I'm kind of like, we don't do that. We're doing all the automation I think you'd be very excited about. And then we keep building out our product into what you and I might call more the analytics side, meaning what we're getting into in Pennsylvania is we're really trying to take a deeper dive into some of the like Airbnb data and stuff. We want to make sure that the right people are filing and enough people are filing. But Tommy, I hope you don't mind. That's kind of secondary to, to what our real goal is, which is to help people efficiently process what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are you doing address identification, and are you getting into that as well?
Yeah, just getting into that. That's exactly right. But those systems right now are charging a whole lot more for that piece. And that's what I'm trying to be nice about with our customers is we've got just a very active relationship with our users where they work with us instead of us going and doing all the work. What we do together is we do they're using the product, and then we together identify certain features that we want to go down a path on. Like in this case, it's what you're talking about is they've got a really good active treasurer and tax collector in the area that is good with the entire state of Pennsylvania. So they're helping us get even more on the data side so that we can can expand it even further. So that's exciting.
Yeah. Wow.
Hey, now when you're in here, like things that you see, like our logos and stuff, those are just when you upload yours, it takes the place. So text and stuff, you need to know that. So you can turn things on and off. Now, I have this on right now. You would not turn on any kind of public search. But remember, we're used to doing all kinds of taxation. So when I turn our demo site on, I usually have most things turned on just so that anybody who's joining me for a demo can get a feel for what's possible. Okay. Because it's not uncommon. They call me for one specific type of tax. And as we're talking, they're like, oh, I didn't realize that you do this as well. And I'm like, yeah, we're used to all various taxations, whether it's filed or billed, very different styles. And we do property as well as, all the business taxes, I call it. So the clients can totally, register. The first part of the registration at first, what we've done to make it easier on communities like yours transitioning is they just fill out the basic information, and it creates what you and I would call a customer account for them. Okay. And then I've converted your record, from your spreadsheets. And so what happens is that this is what most customers like to do. So I'm just explaining to you the basics, like what most cities like, how they like to start. The customers will create their account because it has their passwords and stuff in it. And then it will send you a notification saying, okay, so-and-so is set up. Pair their customer record with what you and I might call their property record. Okay. And that's how most people have liked it done because they don't trust the customer to do everything. And
Right.
we have converted their property records. So they've got all these records in there. So they just, the customer signs up and then they pair it and it sends them an email. The customer says, hey, okay, you're good to go now. And I think that's a smart way of doing it. So I'll log in as a customer if you don't mind. I'll do that first so you get a feeling of on the outside, what it's like for them. Most people like that because it's an easier transition for what they're doing. And there's less mess up on the customer side because they're new to all this too,
Yep.
So I thought that was a smart, it's been a smart, responsible way to get started because it minimizes any frustrations that a taxpayer, might have.
Yep.
When I say taxpayer or customer, I mean the same thing. When I say employee, I mean your son. So if I were them, we have all the Google CAPTCHA. This is most of the time the product is hosted on Microsoft's cloud. It's called Azure, fully secure. We're up to federal standards with SH2. All the geek stuff. That's we do all of that to make sure that it meets everyone's standards. And we do at all levels of government. We do state level. We do workers' comp for Arizona. So I'm used to all different levels from fancy to very, very small community.
Yeah.
When you log in, really is as simple as some language on the left of, if you just picture the account, and then like you were talking about, however many, again, I call them property records. It's just easier that way on the right side, associated with that account. Now, for somebody like you, a numbers person like you, it's as simple as this: is imagine that I'm account number one, and my number one has been input on as many different revenue records as I want to link them together. That's what you're seeing here. So it's very straightforward to the taxpayer. When they log in, they might have one, they might have more. It's whatever they see over here, defining the different parcels, properties that they have. Very easy. Now, what I asked you about, which I thought was interesting, is something that we're really good at this because we're used to dealing with taxes for years with, mortgage companies and all these people that pay on behalf of other people. Okay.
Right.
And that's over here where it says, if you have multiple payment file that you want to do, you can do like an Excel, like the company could, they have to follow our format. You know what I mean? So, right here, it's like, hey, you can download a sample file, but they can put the data into an Excel, and it kind of like you and I might call it a batch. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like run it like a batch and then get the results. And what it's doing is it's actually creating what you and I would call the filing entry, that generates the charge. But it's doing it on each of the different, we use the word PIDN. You're going to see this frequently, the property ID number right there. That's what uniquely identifies each, property record. So you have this customer account number, and then you have the PIDN uniquely identifying each record. Does that make sense?
Okay. Is that the same as a tax lot number, or is that a new ID number?
It's usually what I convert for you that uniquely identifies it.
Okay.
We also do have the map or the folio. See, I'm used to doing this all over the country, so I know the different words that people use in different parts of the country. But we have a whole location, like you're talking about, table behind the scenes. But I don't make it mandatory. What most people can relate to in a demo when they're talking to me is I tell them you're going to have a customer account number that's generated through the new part, and then I can convert your property ID numbers, which is uniquely identifying each record that you currently have that they're used to, and that to me would be this PIDN number right here.
Okay.
That'd be this, and that because people say, how do you get started so quickly? I'm like, well, actually, we've really made this something quick. I'll show you on the inside, on the employee side, where you can import Excel sheets of the data. We usually do it as part of your project, but you can do it. A customer can do it as well. Because they also ask, well, does that mean I could go back and import some history later if I'm not quite ready in the beginning, transactions? I'm like, yeah, you can do all that. I'm just going to show you like a single. So like, for example, if I just click on this to drill down to it, it'll show me the account, it'll show me all the details about it,
Mhm.
I have, and we've made it as absolutely easy as possible. And I do mean that, like right under actions, it's right here. You've got things like payments or do a filing. Some of these are turned on and off, Tommy. Like I've got everything turned on. Some of them, like you're not doing business licenses. Like you don't require do they have to sign up for like to get something from you, like a license from you at first?
Yes, yeah, that's a separate process.
Do you need it separate or do you need it in here?
No, we don't need it in here.
Okay. I just wanted to know because like I said, I'm used to that. So that's okay if you were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just turn that part off. But like, for example, so if you get into your account online, they have access to everything in there. Now they can't go manipulating anything. So you don't have to worry about that. Like, for example, if they were trying to look at, prior receipts that they've paid you, they're all
Right.
there,
Yeah.
and they can hit on, whatever they can hit on a PDF, the picture, and it will generate that for them. First one I've done today, so it'll take it a second longer. You know how that goes.
How much history can you handle?
Doesn't
Like
matter.
We've been here doing this for 8 years.
Yeah.
It's not a long time, but would you handle that?
Yeah, because do you have it available to me to import, with you?
Yes.
Okay, then the answer is yes. I'm used to when I get started. Again, imagine you're talking about lodging taxes and stuff, which are actually pretty straightforward.
Right.
I'm used to doing any kind of tax, and so I might be converting, 1 million records, for some people.
Oh yeah. Wow.
So what you're describing, Tommy, is that's a very straightforward thing to what we're used to.
Okay.
But I was trying to show you in an excited way is like you can pull up anything, and that level of detail they'll have. I got to move that bar. They'll have all of these here. They can get at. Now that was that part. Like they also have, for example, like their charge history. So like what they filed, everything about it. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
That content is right there. So on average, we eliminate over 100 hours worth of phone calls to the office because of the data that is being displayed now to them, which is very exciting. That's because, again, I'm assuming at your size, you probably have a couple people in the office then too, 2, 3, something like that, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very typical, very similar to our customers. So when you've got that, I'm always talking to them about, hey, this is ways to push the calls here, give them the info that they want without having to slow you down. Filing, like you and I were talking about. So you can see all these things that are on here, but I'm just going to hit this proceed to filing. So what happens, which is neat for the customer, the left side has what we're expecting and the right side has what their history is, what they've done. So they can see this at any time. So like, for example,
how do you generate this returns to file? Is that just a calendar thing,
I'm going to show you in a second. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of times people like to start on the taxpayer side, so they just get a feel for how, because the number one thing they're trying to evaluate is how likely is it that their taxpayer, their customer can do this.
Yeah.
That's a number. So I always start right here. I want them to get a feel for how it works. These now in the newer version, these boxes are stacked, but these green boxes you control, Tommy. Like you turn them on and off. Okay.
Yeah.
I turned them all on because usually it gives people a good visual of what they might want to show their customer. Okay. Like for example, you might turn on the instructions pane where you could have a PDF of any instructions specific to what you might want them to do. Okay. Mm-hmm. There is a forms pane. I like this Cindy down at Carteret in North Carolina. She had a really good idea for this. It doesn't happen often, but they're like, well, these are dynamic forms that you can create with whatever type of text questions you want. Okay. Mm-hmm. I know some people that use it for specifically like, how many rooms did you have? How many did this? How many did you do this? Where they're really getting some data. I know other people that use it dynamically, like when they had I think it was a hurricane or there was some issues and they really wanted to ask dynamically for that quarter, hey, were you impacted by this? Were you this? And so they used it as a chance to gain some info about something timely, which I thought, oh, no, that was clever. But the idea is these are questions that you can set up whatever you want. It's just called a form. And we just created it because we thought it was a good idea to be able to gather this data if people wanted to.
So that could be customized by quarter even.
Yeah, because it's the form gets a name. You know what I mean? Like you give the form a name and then go with it from there. It's that easy. When you see the setup part, you're gonna be like, that's way too easy. I'm like, well, that's the point. If you get to know who we are and the type of people we serve, we're an office of 2 or 3 people, then you have to make things a checkbox that they set up one time and they can control it. Same thing here. Like you said something about a form or something. Well, I left this turned on for uploads. Like if you want them to upload something, you know, this is some work I was here. I just put a Word doc on or some work I was just doing for another new client in Pennsylvania. But like you can submit attachments and supporting documentation for whatever that filing might be. You know what I mean? So it could have been a Word doc, could have been Excel, could have been PDF, you know, whatever you want. So now that is associated with this filing. So the main thing that I try and teach people about is all you really have to understand, which most people in your industry already do, is you're doing a filing right now. You know what I mean? It's for this period. It's for this due date. It's that ending period. You're doing a filing. And what we're doing is associating this other information with that filing.
Okay.
Could be a payment, could be an attachment, could be whatever. And all I have to do in the fees part is I just hit calculate. And by the way, most customers, they do this taxpayers, they do it kind of one time, maybe 2, and then they've got it. You know, that's why they have the instructions the first time. I have it turned on in here. Very simple one. These are templates, Tommy. So we do different templates for different customers, depending on how dynamic they need the screen to be. So just consider this a template like a Word doc or something else. Yeah. And the most common one in like lodging tax or occupational, whatever you want to call it, is what was taxable? Do you have any deductions off of it? So I took the most very common one, which is like, hey, we had, 10,000 and, I had 1,000 in deductions. Do you let them subtract anything?
Well, we have, you always have the Airbnb and VRBO filers. Yeah. And then a couple of other, like, if they had long-term rentals through the period, they can take those out. Yeah, a couple of things.
So I wouldn't mind seeing that from you. You know what I mean? To make sure, because it's interesting what we came up with too. You can have more than one line item. I don't know if you do this, but what we're doing over there in Pennsylvania is they actually change their style so that way when this screen comes up, it actually shows. They don't have to fill them all out, but it shows different line items so they could say how much was like Airbnb versus something else. And it's giving them more detail. And then on some of them, like it's probably true for you. On the Airbnb line, they just want to get the number, but it calculates out to 0 because they already collected the money off of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
So there's different approaches that we're like, yeah, this is cool. Like we're getting data because like what they want to do in Pennsylvania is they want that data so they can start to compare it against the file they're getting in from Airbnb. So we can start to analyze, well, wait a minute, do these numbers make sense?
That's very much aligns with our thinking here.
Okay. Well, this is exciting then because it's that time, but I think the reason I want to keep stressing this is it's just an overall attitude though. Like we enjoy this part of what we do. We like the analytics and we like my wife, Jill jokes, she's like, how can you do this for over 20 years? I'm like, well, you got to be creative. You have to find ways to reveal information.
Right.
In this case, by the way, if you have any 0 filings, it would just hit the orange button. If they're filing a 0.
We do have.
It will dynamically do the math. So like when I just hit calculate, what I mean is it understands. Now, a lot of systems don't understand this, but we do. Discounts, I don't think you do any, but if you did, we know how to calculate them.
We do. We have a 5% discount.
Do you really? Oh, okay. Well, man, I got to grab some more data from you then, because this is getting good.
I'll send you afterward. I'll send you a copy of our manual return form.
Yeah, I get that. Give me that ordinance, with the breakdown. Yeah. The system will do it automatically, so we don't let them type in. Now, if you were doing this in the office, you could change the posting date and stuff, okay? Like, say you're backdating it to Friday. But if they're doing it online, it will calculate the penalties and interest stuff if they're late. Okay. It'll do that automatically.
I like that.
Yeah. We don't give them the choice. We don't let them type in whatever they want. We're going to do the math. And
that's good.
There are some fancier ones too. Like I said, the inside of the Office screen has more options, adjustments and things that you might need to do. We don't need to show them that. The taxpayer needs it to just be type in what you're expecting. Here's the answer. You know what I mean? And then they hit finalize. And it's like, you know, typical sense of like, hey, you know, you agree that this is you, you know, reporting it. And then, and so then it rolls back. And so now we've got all the math. We've got any forms that they uploaded or anything. And they just say make payment. And then you can show them this screen. You don't have to. It doesn't matter. It's just a summary of like, hey, you're about to do this. There's triggers in the back too. Like I assume you probably would not let them do a partial payment, but you can let them if you want to.
Okay.
These are all check marks. You know, I'll show you that in a minute. And then what they do is they hit submit. Now this part depends on the provider that we want. We do not make you use a specific, you know, provider for the transaction part, for the ACH or the credit card part, e-check, sorry, whatever you want to call it, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
We've integrated with many. Like this is, I'm using, what do I have turned on? Forte Sandbox. It's not bad. It's a little slower, but Forte, Municipay is real good. All these, Tommy, are convenience fee ones, meaning you collect 100% of what you're supposed to, as opposed to, you know, like a one that where the municipality is eating the money. We don't do that for any of ours.
Okay.
And I'll just type some stuff in here just to get it. Now you may have noticed up in the top it said e-check up here. Like if I clicked on that, that's a bank draft to you and I. Now currently you're not doing either of those, right? Didn't you say you're just doing check right now?
Right.
Okay. So if this is new to you, I will slow down as much as you want. I'm just getting you the feel for it. Is all these companies that I work with, you don't pay anything when you get started because you know they're making their money off of the transaction.
We use this for our permits, our building permits and all of that, and that's so yeah, I'm familiar with how.
And if you find out the name of it, like if there's somebody you really like, we've done interfaces with 5, 6, 7, you know, at least companies. I don't care. If it's one I haven't done, I do charge for the first time. But I am nice enough that if we've already done the work, I actually don't charge to do it, you know, when you get started. If it's one we've already done.
On Converge, that system.
I'll have to write that down. That one's not jumping off at me. I mean, when I'm on the West Coast, like I'm usually hearing like Heartland or some other ones like that, even though they'll drive you out of your mind.
Yeah.
And but the idea is the same, is that what's happening right there is we went to them, they completed, so that way you've got no responsibility, no liability. We don't either. And then depending on the provider, like I said, this is their dev site, so it'll take it probably 10 seconds. But Tommy, what's happening is important here because we do it this style. Everything's in real time. So it's actually went and did it, but then it also came back and updated their account so you don't have to do any work. Okay, that is super important because it makes no sense to offer online payments and such if the staff is going to have to go back in and do the work, you know, and post it.
Yeah.
There's a copy of the receipt. It's got all the content on it from, you know, the periods and, you know, the amounts and everything down here, like the processing fee and stuff, so that you know. And like I said, that would be your logo, you know, anything like that. This is normal. Like I mean, like I could turn this on tomorrow and this is just work. And that's important to get that feeling across there when you're moving from what you're used to something else. This isn't something that has to take a long time. But again, that's part of our style. Okay, so hey, so I took that payment, and my point is, if I did go back, I just went back to the homepage for them. But if I went in there, I mean, all that stuff would be there in the receipts. You know, you name it. Like, see, you know, there's what we just did right here, $100. You know, everything's real. Now, what I'd like to do is pick up the pace. I'm sure you're fine with what I did. I'd like to pick up the pace and get on the inside if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Okay, yep,
So the taxpayer, that's their experience. It takes them 1 or 2 times. They get it down. I'm going to log in as an employee. Okay. Now from this side, let's say I think we should have some fun. You can ask anything you want. Doesn't bother me at all. I've been doing it for 1,000 years, so I'm fine.
okay,
The design needs to be straightforward and make sense. Everything's down the left on the menu. Okay, down here,
right,
search, dashboards. Okay, so I'm going to start with some of the basics. The search has to do with obviously looking for something. Now, and those buttons on the front do it too, and the pretty graphs and all that. But you can search by just about anything that you would want to go look at. Okay, I'm taking my time on purpose, just so you can see the idea. You can type in as little or as much as you want. Okay, I mean, it's going to bring back everything. Everything looks like a hyperlink. I mean, you just click on it. I'm thinking of your staff. I'm sure you are too. Like, could they learn this? And that's one of the biggest things I always get is, besides that, well, our older customers are funny because our older product, before it was web-based, it was very complicated. It was really good, but it was very complicated.
yeah,
We did the opposite approach. I said, can I make this feel more like QuickBooks? Can I get something that's just very obvious to use? And so as I do this, you might hear me use that word often. I just searched for that account. I'm looking at a specific account. Look at all the details about it. I mean, everything that you'd want in the classifications, application data through here, physical location type data through here. Okay. I mean, I'm just giving you a feel. It is as silly as this. Is like, if you needed to edit something, what do you think you'd click? You would click edit and change the field, to what you need. We can do instant statements. But watch this. There's that view menu. Should feel very similar to what you saw on the taxpayer side.
right,
And this is all access to all their details. So the receipts, that's the same screen, the bills, the filings. Now on their filings, as I was telling you, inside on the employee side looks different than outside to them, right? Like this is anything that we have outstanding for them that we're expecting. Whereas on the right side, it's always grouped by tax year because that's how we work. That's how municipalities work. So everything that they do is grouped under that tax year. And there's even other functions here, like, hey, I want to create a new one. Like say people always ask me this when they're getting started. They're like, hey, Chris, I got some people with old ones that, they're delinquent. Can I pop them on there? And the answer is, yeah. When you say I want to create a single filing, that's what's going to create one over here. And that means they're then going to see it on their side. Like you asked me about on the taxpayer side, what's the difference between the left and the right? That's a new one. Now that's a single. I'm going to show you a bulk in a second, but that's this side. And then, hey, Tommy, I don't think you get into these, but just in case, I'm going to tell you about it. We do estimated payments. Like if somebody pays ahead, we understand that and you can reconcile against it. That's right down here. I don't know if you do any of that. I'm not saying you have to.
Not for lodging tax.
Okay. I'm just saying these filing related features are there. You sound very straightforward the way you keep describing it to me. Kind of like I said, like Cindy Carteret, they're great. She's like, hey man, we pop a filing on there. They pay, we analyze it. We do our reports, we give our money to who do they give it to? The chamber and somebody else, because they're collecting on their behalf and et cetera. But this is the filing area. Like, so this is, now listen, hey, if anybody had a problem, you can look at this side of it just like they're looking at it on their side, the taxpayer side. So like, if they're messing something up, you come in here and hit the edit and, boop, 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 whatever you need to do and calculate it. And then they would see it on their side too. So that's kind of cool. It's the same data is what I'm getting at. It's the same data.
Good.
So my point to kind of keep it straightforward on this side is from the customer standpoint, it's the same stuff that you were just thinking about. Okay. The only thing I need you to do, and I have an Excel import for this, when you get started, you said everybody really is quarterly. What we do is, you see this word service right here? See this down here?
Yep.
Okay. What you're doing when you create an account is you need to put what type of filing service they're going to have with you. And what that means is then you know how often you're going to interact with them.
Okay.
Okay, like occupational tax, and this one is OTQTR quarterly, or this one's a business license that I'm going to do annually. You have to, that's the only rule I have for you, is you have to tell it how to behave. So when I do these bulk procedures that I'm about to show you, I grab the right accounts.
Right.
Okay. So as long as you said, and I have that all the time, and people laugh. They're like, okay, well, say I screw one up and I put the wrong cycle on it. How easy is it to change? I'm like, well, how easy is it for you to hit a pencil icon and change the cycle, to what you're supposed to change it to?
Yeah.
That's, so it sounds a little silly, but it's true. It's like, hey, that's, can you push the pencil? Can you follow the rules? And I'm going to show you what I mean by that is over here on these dashboards. I think this is the part you'll get excited about, because as the boss, you're like, man, we're doing all this manually. It'd be nice to be able to see this information. So we came up with the dashboard idea. So I'm going to show you these real quick. The collection dashboard, that's everything coming in real time. Okay. At any time, this. So like any receipts coming in, and you can see where I stole, like, this is actually, I took one of our customers' data from a few months ago. So that's why you can see when it's up here, like where they had 1,400 payments. And then I started just, using it for demos.
Yeah.
But like, you'll know as people are balancing out and as the money's coming in, like month to date balance, trade code, rate, this is your different codes of what's coming in. Like I have these different ones I was doing a customer who had 4 different counties. And so I wanted to show them the idea that there's some OC tax money. There's county 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here's unbalanced money. So this is like today's money. You know what I mean? That's been coming in like from checks or e-checks or cards or cash. And this is in office versus web money filing.
Yeah.
And my point to show this to you is, so you get the idea of how this works. It's really kind of neat that any graph that you see, you just hit the view, and it'll drill down to all those details. I might even pick one that's a little newer just so that we don't have to, because it's going to load about 50,000 receipts from this customer. So that might take it a little bit longer. So I'm going to try and speed it up for you. On a dev server, it's kind of slow. But what I want to show you is on any of these, graphs and stuff, when I think you'll like this part, if you're like you said, do any Excel, whenever we do something, we usually ask you to fill something out at the top, like a filter. And then we bring back at the bottom the data, okay? And then you always have buttons there too of other actions. Like, hey, you want to send this to Excel or a PDF right here. But what I want to use this as a chance to get you excited about is every time down here, and I don't know if you may have to move your video to see this, but there's a search box on every one of these data windows that you can further filter what you're looking at. Okay. So like if you were looking for just, see is how I started to type Hawaii. And it started to bring back just the ones with the name Hawaii in them. Like you can do that anywhere in the program. And then when you push the button, it will only export out whatever you filtered down. Okay. Very cool and very dynamic when you think about delinquents and other stuff. And also right on the collections dashboard, you probably didn't even notice it. It was at the top right here was the word reports, where we get into other drill down stuff. Like if you receipt log of everything coming in, your session counted totals. I'll take you through more in a minute, but month to date stuff by categories, fiscal year stuff, like, hey, this is where we started, this is what we've billed, this is what we've collected, this is what we've done, credit adjustments, refunds, voids. I mean, we understand all that because we're a collection system. These are just sitting in there for you. I just wanted you to feel good about that. Like, dang, good, that's there. I'm going to skip the billing dashboard because you probably won't use it because you're going to do filings. You're not doing billings. Right. Okay. If there's something in your noggin where you're like, oh man, we've been doing those in spreadsheets too. If you had this need, the billing dashboard is for what you're thinking. It can, apply charges. It can create a bill, print the bill, email the bill. You don't have to print it, send it out, and have billing related reports right here too. I'm assuming you might not need this area because you're not going to do billing. Okay. You're going to do
Right.
filings. So yours will be right here under business filings. It's the third one. Do you see that?
Yep.
Some of these obviously you would turn off because you don't need the property tax one. So, you know, there's on-off switches for these dashboards. So I think this, now hopefully, Tommy, this part where you have some fun. So what I was getting at now, this is, everything's already been set up. So when I log in here in real time, I can see year to date, what type of filing. I've had 41 OC tax filings so far this year. You know, I've had 27 business license. I have this here on the right side. This is probably something that you have trouble with right now that our users just eat up. This is the outstanding side. So by me applying a filing to each business that I'm expecting to interact with, I can now measure against whether they filed or not, or if they're late, you know, what I got. So like, you know, October, you know, I have the values here of what's been happening, and I can drill down at any time. And we will just continue to add more visuals. Like down here, we've got extensions, but you don't do that. So I'm not really stressing extensions, but we're going to add even more visuals. So now here's your process. So if I show you this, if you can do this once whatever you said, a quarter, I was about to say a month, this is what happens. You go bulk filing, and it comes up and it says, well, what are you doing? Now I'm going to do this. I know I don't want to do 3,000 of them right now. Okay. So I'm going to actually pick M. If I would have picked this one right here, that's the 3,000 accounts that I have. So I want this to be, that would have taken about 3 or 4 minutes to run.
Yeah.
So right here, I just go to pick my cycle. I'm going to pick my tax year so it knows the math. I'm going to pick my template. You and I talked about that. That determines what they see, what the customer sees. I'm picking my template. Then I'm going to put my dates, like 12/15/2021 through, you know, say it's late on 12/16/2021 for the 11th period. Let's say it's 11/1. Or it could be, I'm sorry, I probably should have been putting a quarter for you, but I'm sure you understand what I mean.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so then I just put that. Now, Tommy, this was the rule. I told you the rule already. I filled it out here. So all it did was go and look at each account at the services that I told you, and it looked for a match based on the filing code, the status has to be active, and the cycle. And so there's that one we've been messing with. So it went and found it. And so then I hit complete, and it says, you sure? You say yes. You probably couldn't see the progress bar because there's only one. It was so fast, but it's done. So what I just did, I just put, and normally I do all 3,000. That was step one. I just put that filing on their account. Okay. So naturally, I would think you would want to notify them that you did that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I always go left to right. This is the way we design everything. So right from bulk filing, I go send notification. I'm going to click it. And hopefully you're asking yourself, could your staff do this? Because that's the whole point. That's what we do, is we sit there and say, well, usually when I have the staff members in there, I'm like, just tell me, do you think you could push this? And they're like, well, yeah. So they say, okay, I want to notify the customers. Filing code, OC tax, what was the date? We said 12/15. And then right here, so all it's going to do, you know what it's doing, it's just matching it up. It's just looking for a match. Upcoming filing or missing filing. It's two different templates. Upcoming, you're going to see. Missing would be like a delinquent or something. You're like, hey, you got a filing coming. I call this proactive government. Like, hey, I really wish my county here would send me something that said before I'm late. That would be like, hey, you know, you got something coming up here, you know, avoid those penalties.
Yeah.
They don't, but I wish they would. So I hit submit, and right down here below, now we can get as fancy as you want in the setup area. I can show you this, but there is a template for these notifications. Okay. And I took the IRS style for what we did. What I mean is cover page. I don't know if you've ever gotten an IRS letter, but be a small business person. You'll get plenty of them. Get a cover page. They always do that. You know what I mean? Which kind of identifies the notification and everything. And then the content is behind it.
Right.
So what we did on purpose, check this out. I bring up this notification. I can print them out if I want, or I could just hit, you see the email one right here, right?
Right.
So I hit this, and it does them in groups of 600. Okay. And that's because if you're going to make a PDF, that's the size that we found is manageable. It's a 600-page PDF. So they pick the group, which is only one. You might have two, you said, right? Or no, you said 1,600. So you might have, maybe 3 groups. But anyway, you pick the group. There's my template of whatever I created. I'm just going to pick this one called business license. And then it could have been called, quarterly octax. And that's the template I told you about. And then they hit send, and we'll let it do it. Okay. So I could have printed. What do you guys do now? Do you even send anything or what?
Email.
Oh, good. Okay. So do you have this kind of down like this in an automated way or?
Yeah, somewhat.
Okay. But still, this is a good flow though, right? Like you could be comfortable with this flow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. That's what I wanted to make sure of. Let me see if that came yet.
Yeah, that looks good.
And then I'm waiting for, there it is. You see this new tax filing?
Yeah.
Okay. So like there's have the logo in there. You see what I mean? And then it takes whatever you wanted to give them and automatically makes, if you did email, it attaches it as a PDF. If you did print, it prints it as a second page. Isn't that awesome?
That's great.
It's really cool. I mean, when we came up with this idea, I was like, wait a minute, this is really good. And you can see, I purposely did this, like there's text in the template, like you control this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's got everything on there that they need. But I'm really having fun with that area because then you've notified them and you're done. I mean, that was, so, I'm asking, I was like, hey, once a quarter, would you mind pushing the bulk filing and then notifying your customers?
Yeah.
That's what it takes right there. And then you'd be done. And what I just did, Fred, your size would take, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes to do.
Yeah.
So great. Again, freeing up time. There are reports in here based on different like zoning and classifications like Airbnb versus, let me see if I can pick up a range and kind of get you something interesting on there. I didn't really prep this part. I didn't think about the dates of any old transactions or anything.
Yeah, we do like to track Airbnb and VRBO and kind of stay ahead of what they're doing.
There's different ways to do it too. Like we classify them, but like I was telling you in Pennsylvania, what we're starting to do them as line items too. So it's a little bit different. Like you and I would talk about that, about which way we feel would have more oomph,
Yeah.
More oomph on what we're doing. Come on now, first time running that. First time you run it for the day. Yeah. Oh, by the way, you can get 0 filings too. I didn't even think about that. That could be helpful to you. I'm going to go back old because I can't remember if I have any of this in here, but I'm sure you don't mind. I just want to try and give myself something a little bit more interesting, on the output. I didn't have any classified. So you can tell I didn't have them classified. So I have some classified as condos and cottages, right here. But I didn't classify the other ones as like Airbnb and stuff. There's a drop down on each property as to how they're filing. And then you can do, now, do you collect on it? Is everything in the same district? Because we do have another one too by district in there as well. Because sometimes people like to classify different parts of their jurisdiction. And it helps them see. Well,
we do have 2 broad classifications, and one is unincorporated and the other is incorporated, and they have different tax rates.
Oh, okay. Besides that being rates, which will be important to you and I, that could be interesting as far as reporting too, right?
So we track how much by unincorporated and how much for each of the incorporated cities.
Yep. No, I totally get that. If you don't mind, let me show you some of the setting stuff because I think that'd be valuable.
Sure.
Hey, if you do any payment wise, you can do all this in Office. It flows the same way. Balancing out the end of the day here. Let me just kind of get some flow going for you here because you probably want to see it because this is the stuff that makes us look even better because you're like, wow, it's a complete system, like balancing out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Which one did I do? A web payment. There's that web payment you and I just did.
Yeah.
So again, the process is really nice. People laugh, but I've been doing small government for so long. They're like, does it really say follow these steps 1, 2, 3? And I'm like, yes.
Well,
I'm like, yes, it does.
comic book format.
Yeah, right. So you put in your counted totals for each different type of payment source. If this were in office, I mean, sure, like you're going to still be taking payments in office too, I assume, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So every person would have a session that they're balancing. So like you can see this one, anything done online, we call that user web. Okay. Anything done in office would be like, Suzanne, Bob,
right.
Johnny. They'd have their own session of what they were balancing. They'd get their counted totals, and then they would mark that as balanced, and that gives them the drawer side, the money, the front end money side. Yeah. And then what we call from there, because sometimes they're allowed to do it, sometimes a manager does it. The next step right here is the deposit. It's also the same thing right here, balancing deposit. Do you see it? Create deposit.
Yeah, yeah.
And what happens there, you'd see it now because I balanced it, right? I balanced it, and now it's eligible for this.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Say create deposit. And then I'd run like my deposit report. And what that's going to do is give me the accounting breakdown of what I need, showing me for every segment, like credit card, cash, in-office, license, whatever. There's the rate code. So that's one of the things you talked about. I have one rate code right now. You said you might want to break it apart into multiple rate codes. But it'll tell me the segment, like normal, penalty, interest, discount, whatever. That's the segment. So, and then the GL number, I use the word cash on purpose so people can relate to what I'm talking about. Right. The deposit and then the offset account for the revenues coming in. Okay. So you'd have every line item there of what was in that deposit pulled together from a reporting standpoint. It's great. Obviously, we know that's for GL entries. It's that simple. If you really cared, your volume doesn't really warrant it, but if you really cared and you wanted us to do an interface into your accounting software, I don't care. That's fine. That's just right here. Been doing them for years. That once you balance and create the deposit, it's eligible to be exported by the deposit number, and then you just pick different accounting products, and we just add them to the list. Okay. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not trying to push you into this because you're coming from such a more manual process that if I start layering lots of stuff on it, you might get a little overwhelmed. I'm saying this stuff is in there. So would that export it to the treasurer's system? Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. So, I mean, you just need the layout, depending on what they're using, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
So all of these things are what we do. They're just not required. Like they're going to be in there anyway. That's where people get excited. Like, wait a minute. And that's why I'm saying you don't have to start with it. It's already there. If over time you decide to do it, great. That's fine. If you want help, call us. That's no big deal. But we're not.
So they're all enabled.
Right. We don't play that game. If I've done the work, then it's already there. Okay. Yeah. If I have not done the work, all of our customers know this. If I haven't done the work, then you're going to pay me the time to cover my expenses to do the work, and then it's done. Right. And that's reasonable. Nobody has a problem with that.
Good.
In the so we were going through these dashboards. By the way, it'll also manage all your delinquents. I don't want to spend a lot of time there, but like it's all in real time. It'll apply penalties and interest, even ongoing. Like if let me think. I don't know why they would do this, but they probably would. They file but don't pay. Yeah. Okay. So I'll make this up. They're 3 months late, or maybe they file on time, but then later they don't. So it's smart enough to apply interest and penalties and stuff to it. I don't know you haven't told me your rates yet, but I mean, it's used to doing it. They can produce delinquent letters right off of it, if you wanted to, right there. It's all normal. Good. It's just in there, ready to go. And so my point is, through all these things, like all the different payment areas, and if you screwed up, you can void one and just retake it. It's that easy. People love this. They're like, it can't be that easy. I'm like, just type in the receipt number. It'll get rid of it. It'll have a proper audit trail and everything. It'll put the charge back on the account. Go take the payment again. or do whatever you needed to do, go adjust it or whatever you were trying to do.
Great.
So those types of things are all in there, right, in this area, like credit memos and such. And then if you're doing a new one, it's as simple as there's only one spot you can add a new record. So go to new record, pick the different type of revenue of, you know, what yours is that you're talking.
Yeah.
You would probably only have 1 or 2 in your list, Tommy. Okay.
Right.
But these are, again, things you turn on and off. I'm about to show you that. And it's like, okay, you know, I'm doing this. And then you have decided what needs to be filled out. Like, well, I need customer info. I need to assign their filing code so I know how often. Remember how we talked about that, the service?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. You know, I need all this filled in. Like, we put it all in one spot. So it's that easy when you're creating a new record of what you want to do. Now, we don't let the customer do all this online. We don't trust them. Okay.
Yeah.
So some of this stuff we definitely have the employee do to make sure that it's right. Because if it's right, then you don't have to think about it again. But if you let them do it and they screw it up, then you know, you got to deal with that.
Yeah.
And then last would be under settings. This is where we configure the system, because people ask, if you've looked at our YouTube at all, you'll see that in there is that we actually put our training videos right up there too, that you can get started. They're like, well, what do you mean? The very first one says, you know, go into organization. And when we train, we just do it with you. Just go right down here. And for people that haven't done it themselves, and we're going to go through, we'll go to security and you just add your, you know, add your employees. Let's let this load. So we're good for that. And then the payment types is the credit card part. This is the organization, like, you know, you just fill in normal stuff. Down here are some of those on-off switches I was telling you about.
Oh, yeah.
Text that you see on the screen. Text that you see on the screen so you can control it. Just change it and then, you know, update. You ever want to update it, just come in here and change it. There's your logo. There's some of the other dashboards we were talking about, like turn off the property tax dashboard. Here's some other things like you and I are talking about, like, hey, are we going to let them do partial payments? You know, yes, no. So you set it to what you want and then just hit save. That's it. That's your, you know, that's how this whole system works. And you're like, it can't be that easy. I'm like, well, you do security, you do your payment types. That's like credit card, e-check, whatever. You do your revenue types. And I've only got a couple more minutes, so you know, bear with me. But this is where you set the rules for what you want to collect. This is where you saw that list. When I hit new record, it showed you all these words in it. Okay. And so like for you, you're here, like occupational, I can just hit edit, but you're just saying, I'm giving it a name. Do I need a customer? Yes. You know, would I need a physical location? Probably yes. Do I want to assign a filing code? Yes. That's what you and I were talking about. So these are just check marks telling it how to behave when you do a new one. These are the default values telling it how to behave when you do a new one. That's how the whole system works. And then you were talking about rates. Okay. So you can have as many rate codes as you want. That's why I was listening for you. And I'm sure when you send me your ordinances, it'll be more obvious. I think you might have even said you might have 2, unincorporated versus incorporated.
Right.
So instead of just 1, you might have 2 that, like, do you want to, when a property, you know, gets signed to set up, do you pick one of those 2 for them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's 10% for unincorporated and 1% for unincorporated. Yeah.
So let me show you how that works. So the math is right here in what's called the rate schedule. Very easy. So watch it. So I'm going to go to the rate schedule first, and I'm just going to, you know, see how I mean? Like, let's say I have one here and I say show tiers. Here is every year and then what that rate's going to be. Okay. Like in this case, they're doing a flat 100 right here. I would change that to like, hey, in 2021, they want to charge 0.015%. So you would have 2, right? You would have, one, like, watch how easy this is. I'm going to hit the plus sign. It's going to bring up a schedule name. You know, like unincorporated. Just making it up. And for 2021, let's say, what'd you say that rate would be for that?
Unincorporated is 10%.
All right, 0.1. So there is the rate section. So when I hit unincorporated, you see it?
Yeah,
And so you would have one for unincorporated, one for incorporated, okay?
yeah,
And then that's the money. That's the math part. Okay, it's very important I stress that because people are like, well, why do you have a rate code versus a schedule? Schedule's the math. Okay, the code could be anything because we have some people who would like to break it down further. Okay, but what happens is in each code for whatever, it's very easy. I'm gonna hit edit. You tell it right here what rate schedule it's based on. So if I change the code to unincorporated, guess what? Now, when I put this on somebody's account, it's going to charge 10% now.
Yeah.
Just like that. But this is the reason you have a rate code, because this is where we set up the penalties and interest and other stuff like that.
Yeah.
So watch how we fill this out. Very straightforward. I give it a name. Right here, I told it what it was based on. So I would actually change that to like, that is, gotta move your video bar. Lord in heaven. Sorry, video bar. There we go. I'm back.
Yeah.
Down here, we scroll down to the next section. There is the discounts. So did you actually say you do one or not?
We do. We have a 5% discount.
How long is it in effect for? Like, just give me the basics, but you mean what's
permanent.
You mean no matter, you want me to factor that in, like show a 5% no matter what?
Yeah.
You can. I mean, you can see how easy we've made it. You would turn it to yes. And then you would say, would you say as a percentage, didn't you?
5%. Yeah.
And it'd be like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And it just stays on for however long that they have the charge.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds a little crazy, but I've seen crazier. So that's all right. And then down here would be, what's your penalty method?
Manual.
What do you guys charge?
It's first month is 10%, second month after that is 15. So
ongoing, or did you mean 15 total, like 5% or what?
Well, 10 the first month, an additional 15 after that. So it'd be a total of 25%.
Does it stop or what?
It stops there.
You know what's funny is I swear I think I've got somebody else who already does that same weird formula. That the
That's
rate
pretty
happens
common.
to be different. That it happens to be different. It's 10. I don't remember which letter it is. Like we do these letters for that, for different formulas.
Yeah.
So I can't
think
exactly
this one's pretty common.
because like this one right here is C is 5% with a maximum of 25%.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I was trying to picture that as one of them. I'll have to ask the guy. And then you would only apply it like this. This you would apply it 5 times. A maximum of 5% per month, up to 25%, 5 times.
Yeah.
So I'd have to go through that with you again to make sure I got that right. Because do you do interest as well or not?
Yes.
That's right.
1% per month.
That's what that is already.
Yeah.
Okay. That the B means based on the balance. This is 12% per year.
Yeah.
And then U means unlimited, meaning it needs to apply as long as it goes.
As long as it goes.
Yeah. So it sounds like all I got to do is ask the guys which one was that formula that does 10 and then 15, but stops right at a max of 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to ask them what that one is. I don't remember which letter that is.
Yeah.
And then the GL numbers are right here. Tommy, you need those. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So like right here, when payment is made, most people in your industry on your side don't book the AR side because it's happening right then. But so I usually just focus right here on the payment side. So it's like saying, now this is for each segment. So you got the normal, which to you and I is the tax portion. Then you got the discount portion, the penalty portion, the interest portion. You see all that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so by doing all that, this is the structure so that all the reports know what you're doing. So the math was in the one spot, and then this is all the rules for like penalties, interest, GL, you name it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We've been doing
Very
that for over
good.
20 years. Like that's our
Yeah.
model. It's kicks butt. It makes sense to everybody. You really, once yours are set up, you don't have to touch them, because they don't change.
Right.
The only work you have is each year you have to push the button to copy last year's rate code, the rate schedule from 21 to 22.
Okay. Yeah.
Little water to keep
Okay.
me going.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that rate, I'm almost there. That was right here. And so there's
Yeah.
some things that aren't really relevant to you. There's some extras, but the only other thing I'd say is in this business filing area, this is the one thing, it'd probably take you 5 minutes, but this is where we define those rules I was telling you about what the taxpayer can see, like those green boxes and stuff.
Yeah.
So like for each one that I set up, like there's the very first one, there's the occ tax. It's active, yes, giving it a name and description. And then these check boxes are the same as what they were up top. So I'm going to go up top so it's easier on your eyes. Like this is those rules that I was telling you about, like, hey, do I need to show the deductions box on that template? Do I need an application? Do we do renewals? Do I need instructions? Do I do a business license? Do I need a form? Do I need documents required for upload? All these different, they're just check boxes. So as you say yes and turn something on and save it, that determines the behavior, online. And if you turn it, turn it on, it's on, turn it off, it's off, it's live. So as soon as you hit save, it would then change the way it behaves online.
Okay.
That's important. And so my point is what you may have asked yourselves, like, how can Chris describe something so versatile, but yet it's the same product for you versus your neighbor. And it just depends on what you check versus your neighbor, on the boxes.
Yeah.
And that last part about that in the filing, that was the codes. There's the cycles, like how often. And then the templates was that last thing I told you, that cool thing I got from the IRS idea, which is this is the notification, what you're sending out.
Yeah.
So if you want to send something, you send something new. And it's, there's the text, and then you attach to it whatever document it is you want, and that becomes the page 2 or the PDF or the whatever on the email. It's that easy. So you can change it at any time. You can own it. So the last part people ask me is like, well, okay, you showed me, how do you get started? I was like, well, you just did the settings. I mean, that's, what we do when we get started is we turn the site on Azure for you. It's your own unique site on the cloud. So you're not sharing data with anybody. We don't do that. I've been doing government too long. You don't do that. Everybody's their own database and everything. And then under help, besides all the getting started, like if you weren't sure what to do on like your staff, they're trying to learn. I got a little helpful document right there. There's the business filing taxes. So they would click this. They'd have this PDF right here just for a little comfort, learning some language, as they go and the steps, everything I just demoed for you.
Yeah.
That's what this is, to make them comfortable as they transition to the product. And then getting started, I do right here under getting started. By the way, there was a one right there that said show screen to agent. Like when you want me to see your screen or one of the guys, you just click that. It gives you a 4-digit number and you tell us, and then we can see your screen. But here is the getting started spreadsheets I was telling you about, like history wise and stuff, like bringing in your transaction history or payments or things like that. It's the idea of a spreadsheet. So whether I'm doing it, which is fine, we help you in the conversion process. I just get your old data and I'm like, hey man, let's put this into the right format in Excel. And then I come into this screen just like you would, and I hit choose and I import it in and get people started. That's how we do it. So it's neat, it's standardized, but it does make sense to them. So what I try to do is take you through what hopefully felt comfortable for somebody transitioning from where you are to what you want to go to. My number one thing was, I hope you walk away from this saying there's absolutely no way you could not know more information. The information is on the dashboards in real time, in your face. to manage and take control of. And that is the number one thing I get from people when they're moving from like an Excel environment to this, is that transition of everything becomes more visual, more obvious, like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know? And then the other part is
Yeah.
it just works. That's the other part they want, is I don't want to have to overthink it. It just works. That joke is, that took me 20 years because I learned in government is like, hey, when I'm done, when they're done at 5 o'clock, they want to be done. They don't want to be thinking about software when they go home.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so we've made this into something like that. That is, you got a 24/7 portal for the customers. They can file whenever they want, but there's no surprises for the employee. They know exactly what they're going to get and how it works.
Yeah,
And that's cool.
Yeah, good.
What, John, anything that like you think I might have overlooked or something? I actually tried to take you through the whole flow.
Let me look at my notes here. So billing was one, we took care of that. Data, and so data, as far as data we want to collect, that's really pretty, we can decide whatever we want and how much detail or not.
Yeah, it's pretty much in there. And then what I like to do with users like yourself is we always add more content. So you're probably talking about adding more content if there is something here on the business filing dashboard, whether it's up under reports. That's what we usually add a lot for people, or that it could be a query, it could be a visual, whatever. That's where you would want to define some of that with me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, what could we expect for fees for the service?
Yeah, and actually that's really easy. Peyton's got a spreadsheet that I'll send you, and it's all inclusive. And I mean this, I'm very excited about it. It took me a number of years to put this together. It's for the cloud hosting, the product, the support, everything. Okay. It will be, I don't have 1,600 in front of me. I think that's about our minimum. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to say it to you this way. A typical small project for us is a customer might spend $350, $400, something like that in their overall project of per month for the Microsoft side. The product, the support, the backups, the tech, the everything, all inclusive.
Right.
And then the upfront part will be on the Excel sheet. And that's up to you, Tommy, you and me, which is like, hours for data conversion. Did you have a credit card interface for me to do? Training, So when she sends it to you, I think you'll be excited because it's super easy. It's like the first part is what I just told you. And then the bottom part says one-time fees, and it'll say like, training, this and that. You can modify anything. Like if you think of an interface, or you think we don't need that, or if you think I haven't put enough time, like I say, I put 5 hours for conversion. You're like, I've got more, maybe I need, take a guess, 6.
Yeah.
It's fine. But I can never send it to you in the morning so you have it. But I would think anything like from what you're coming from, I would think, well, from what you're coming from, you're not really paying for. So anything's more. But I think when you compare it against others, you're going to be like, holy criminy, this is, way reasonable for what you're processing, which is exciting.
Yeah. It's quite a bit better than some of the others that I've seen so far.
Well, some of them are old government style, and I mean that like a lot of money up front type thing.
Right.
That's not really what we do. Tommy, let me put another number in your head. Our minimum for a customer is about $4,200 a year. And let me explain that, because when people hear that, they're like, that's not enough. I'm like, I'm just telling you, it's our way to let even small governments start, is because we have to pay, even on the small side, I have to pay Microsoft about like $150 a month.
Right.
Okay. So you're talking about like our smallest customers, all inclusive, are paying like $350 a month, but that's the Microsoft side at the $150. And then our support, our product, our everything all in one, all the backups. They don't think about anything, all the SSLs, certificates, all that kind of stuff done. Okay. So I think it's very exciting that the entry point that we help government get in there at And when I send it to you, I think you'll look at it and be like, that's more than reasonable, for what we're doing. But that's it. Yeah. It's really that straightforward. And then the getting started is really up to the customer, what their timing looks like when they're just like, hey, this time of year is better for us, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay. But I'll send that to you. I'll have Peyton send that to you tomorrow so that we can have a quick discussion on it to make sure that everything makes sense.
How long does the setup take? Like a month, or?
I'm going to hold you to that. That depends, because I always laugh about that as like people. I mean, all we got to do is turn it on.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have to give me those Excels. And now if there were like an interface or something, that interface usually could add 2 weeks or maybe 2.5 for testing, but getting started traditionally, like if somebody said, hey, let's get started in January, I'd be like, okay, we'll turn it on. You go into the config side with me, and in the first week you'll have it'll all be set up. And then we do the data usually in the second and third week, because it makes you feel comfortable. And then you do some trial and error. You know what I mean? You want to get used to it. Maybe do some in-office processing at first before you tell the public about it. Usually most people don't tell the public about it until after they've done like a round of in-office public, you know what I mean? So they feel good, and then they tell them.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
But yeah, that's a typical process of, and it has to be fast and efficient because we're not charging that much. This can't be a 6-month process. This needs to be kind of like even being nice, let's say 2 months, being nice, taking your time, making sure the staff is comfortable and kind of got their legs under them. Yeah. Okay. But just wrap with me about it. We're not on our side. We've been doing long enough. We don't have to be pushy. I just kind of give you the stuff and be like, hey, tell me what your timing looks like and let's have some fun. But remember, Tommy, when you're talking to somebody, this is a real product. It could be installed tomorrow. That is super, super important, because I've been dealing with software for 20 years where people go through a presentation and then they find out it's kind of like takes 10 years to configure it. I'm like, no, this is a real product that I could tell Brandon or the guys, hey, set up a site for Tommy tomorrow, and you'd start, configuring it. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Hey, digest that, and then I'll have Peyton send that to you tomorrow. We can give a holler whenever you're ready, just to kind of talk about it.
Okay.
Awesome. Hey, it was a lot of fun, man. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You betcha.
Good information.
Okay. Hey, I'll send you that link too after it uploads. Okay.
Okay. One more thing before you go. What's have you actually started AI yet? Address identification, or is that still in the?
Well, to be fair, it's still early because we're on the front end of that. I know some of those companies that are doing that right now, then I like what they're into, but I mean, they're charging a couple $100,000 and stuff like that. And so I said on the front end with these Pennsylvania users, I said, you work with me on it. I won't turn it into a moneymaker on the front end. Let's just learn how to get what we want out of it on the front end. It takes more than you think. We're used to doing all the Google interfaces though. Like we do all the visuals now. Matter of fact, like for Tucson, I'm doing one right now on plotting because of their alcohol permits. They have to have it in a certain radius. So we have all this experience. We just now need to figure out that bigger part of, how you start looking at other people's systems.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But if somebody asked me and they said, hey, do you do that yet? I'm like, no, we're going that direction, but we do everything. Yeah. We have everything in the system, and our price point is way more affordable to go towards that direction than asking you for a few $100,000 up front. We don't do that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, we'll follow that because we're interested in that. We have another service right now, but they're pricing us out of business. So.
Well, that's what I mean. Like we need to be more creative about it, but that might have to do with the fact, Tommy, we come from small government, as opposed to coming from big government down. I've been dealing with the small side for so long. You got to be more creative about what you bring to the people because they don't have those extra dollars just sitting there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I'll send that to you tomorrow and we'll have some fun with it, man.
All right.